365. It is Jody McDonald with my partner while John McMullen is busy. Jeff Kerb, CBS Sports. And speaking of John McMullen, there he is. Asking you shall receive. The usual co-host of the show, John McMullen, hustling down to Eagles practice these days. So he joins us right at the top of the show. First, Mr. Kerr, good morning.
Good morning, Jody. How was your Monday?
I worked way too much. 3 different shows yesterday. You were my first, but you were only my first out of 3. And always good to be talking to John McMullen. Johnny Mac, how's camp treating you?
Hey, it's a grind, and here we are. What are we? Now I got to start thinking about day 6. Day 6. Happy Pads Day, gentlemen. First day of pads.
Well, then let's start right there. We've never seen a Coach Sirianni camp before. We've taken the steps through him and how he's doing things and what he's attempting to accomplish in camp. But this is the first day of pads. We've got years gone by, those that have been long round enough, from Doug Peterson to Chip Kelly to Andy Reid. Shoot, I even go all the way back to Buddy Ryan and Ray Rhodes and Buddy Ryan. How do you think day 1 in pads is going to go for Nick Sirianni, Mr. McMullen?
Well, if you want to compare it to those guys, I say it all the time, it's a different time. I mean, Nick's been running practices that sometimes are as low as 75 minutes. So, that's not the old days when you used to go 3 hours and then you had a special team walk through in the afternoon. Oh, by the way. So, it's a lot different how they run things. And a lot of it stems, I mentioned earlier, because I was on the field. That was probably my worst day covering the NFL when Corey Stringer essentially, fell to heat exhaustion. And it was just, that changed everything. There were no mandatory. Think about, that's not that long ago, guys. That's really the turn of the century. And there was still the mentality of you're weak if you want water. Don't bring it on the field. And now everything is completely changed with sports science. And that part of it's good. No question of it. The issue becomes preparation. And how do you prepare for the game in 75 minutes? We're going to find out if you're going to run 75-minute practices. We're going to see if they can get their work in.
John, you said yesterday the defense pretty much won every practice. I don't know who won the day yesterday, but what do you want to see out of the offense today?
Well, I did think the offense, by the way, Jeff, won yesterday. I think they finally came through. I think it was by far the best practice for Jalen Hurts of the summer. I think it was sharp on the intermediate stuff, and that's been pretty much the issue throughout the first days of camp. And it was ironic because he didn't have Devontae Smith out there. So, that part's a little bit concerning because I've talked about that domino effect of Devontae Smith and how it improves the whole wide receiver corps as just putting guys in more natural positions. Well, now he's not out there, and you start looking at the guys that are out there and you go, oof, where are we again at the wide receiver position? So that's a concern, but yeah, by far, I would say the offense had its best day on Monday. Jalen Hurts had his best day, and they just want to continue consistency. I mean, that's the whole thing that Nick Sirianni is preaching to Jalen Hurts in that offense. Do it day after day after day. Keep stacking days, as they say, the cliche. You got one good day. Let's see if they can follow it up.
Let me follow up with Devonta Smith. And we know now that he's week to week with the injury that he suffered. JM, did either you or anyone else be able to define or explain exactly when Devonta Smith did get hurt?
Yeah, we saw the play. It was awkward. It was a far side of the field, so it was difficult to see from where most of the reporters were standing. It was clear something was wrong. It was a low pass. He went, from my perspective, it looked like he went down awkwardly. We were actually talking, a few of us were talking about this yesterday. Was it non-contact? Was it contact? Because a player was right there. and came in. From my view, from my perception, immediately, I thought it was a non-contact thing. I thought it was when he stepped awkwardly, and then the player came in. Other people saw it differently. You don't have the luxury of video, so it's tough to tell.
Nobody's got it on video.
Yeah. No, but they shut down video by that point of the practice. That was in team drills. So yeah, I mean, you're just going by your eyes. I thought it happened on the plant, very similar to if you think about Carson Wentz's injury way back in the day when he got hurt and he tore his ACL and his LCL. It was the plant where he tore it. It wasn't the hit after. That's what I think happened here. I can't guarantee it. I actually asked the Eagles, was it non-contact? Was it contact? And they said they didn't know. So that's where we are.
So what time frame are we looking at here, John? I've heard 2 to 3 weeks, obviously, from Schefter, but does it look like he'll play in any preseason games at this point?
I would doubt it, and that's a concern for me for any rookie. I just think you need the reps. I mean, to me, you hope you remember, guys. These designations weren't exactly, came down from the mount during the Doug Peterson era, when he would say day to day, and guys would be out weeks, and week to week would mean, okay, we'll see in a couple months. I hope it means week to week. I hope it means the most positive of MCL sprains, which would be a grade 1 versus a grade 3. I think Isaac had a grade 3 last year, and he missed half the season, had to have surgery. So there's a varying degree to those types of injuries. The Eagles were pretty confident it's not that serious. So hopefully they're right. Hopefully it's not as serious. But yeah, I mean, it hurts because he's such a big part of that offense, and it's hard to put that on the shoulders of a rookie to begin with. But they're expecting so much of him, and now he's going to miss reps and preseason games. So it's got to be a concern.
J-Mac, you said that Jalen Hurts might have had his best practice of the entire camp. Not when I say entire camp, it sounds like it's been months. It's actually been a week.
It feels like months.
It just feels like months, exactly. Who were the guys who were making plays down the field or making catches for him that allowed him to have his best practice?
Well, yesterday it was Quez Watkins, so that was a positive. I gave him my practice game ball at Sports Illustrated, and he was able to do it both ways. He got behind Steven Nelson for a long touchdown in 7-on-7 drills, and he also took a bubble screen in the red zone for a touchdown. So you kind of saw that in a very limited dose when Quez was able to get that one touchdown, and as a manufactured touch guy, really fast. Obviously, that's why I was here. I know the Eagles were hoping in the spring that he could take a step forward and maybe work out of the slot a little bit more. But anytime you see a young player like that get some success, make some plays, gain some confidence, that's a positive. And we're right back to where we started. That's what I was talking about Devontae. Now we're talking about, okay, who's going to play? Is it going to be Travis Fulgham? Is it going to be Jalen Reagor, who's gotten off to a slow start due to off-the-field issues? Your guy, Greg Ward, Quez Watkins. It's not going to strike fear in the heart of opposing defensive coordinators.
John, if you had to rank all those guys right now outside Devonta Smith based on their camp performance, how would you rank them?
Well, Jalen and Quez just got back, so they haven't been working a lot. So it's, Quez, it's very positive because he hasn't been in team drills all that often. I would say Travis has been the most consistent, Travis Fulgham. Jalen Reagor's gotten off to a slow start, as I said. Greg Ward is kind of Greg Ward. You know what you have there. And John Hightower is not really gotten off to a quick start. So it's a concern. You see some of the restructures the Eagles made yesterday, contract-wise. I got to think at some point they're going to try to bring in a veteran receiver. Now, there's not that much on the streets, but there's trades as guys begin to get cut around the league. I think that's a position where they're going to look to bring in somebody with some experience.
That's funny you went there. I was going to get there eventually. Thanks for jumping ahead for us. You think that it's more likely the reason they did the two restructures, Derek Barnett, which is completely just cap keeping, like housekeeping, because his contract is not going to change. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So they're just adding voidable years to stretch money out over time. You think it's more likely for a trade guy than a contract extension type deal where they might have to give a guy some upfront money and that would add to their cap?
No, I don't think they redid the deal specifically with the eye on one particular player, whether that would be bringing somebody in from the outside or making a trade. I just think they understand they need more cap flexibility because these things are going to pop up. If it works out, I don't know how they get sort of a Dallas Goedert extension done until they figure out what they're going to do with Zach Ertz to begin with, and that would obviously give them cap space for that. As opposed to some of these other guys, you got to be very careful with Jordan Mailata because I mean, I will say this about Jordan. If he wins the starting job and plays well, I mean, he is gonna make a boatload of money. I mean, just a boatload of money. And I think the Eagles have to be aware of that. So if they can get something team friendly done, then we've talked a lot about Josh Swett and Derek Barnett, and they've both been really impressive. But I've said that Josh has been the best player in camp. I truly believe that. Maybe they want to get them both back because you got to be realistic about Brandon Graham. He can't continue to play at his level for many more years. Can't keep counting on that, so you have to get younger. So they have a lot of work to do, and this is just sort of one of those stops, rest stops along the way. They got a lot of decisions to make over the next year and moving into 2022.
Now, John, I'm with you. I think if they look for a veteran receiver, it's got to be the trade market because the two best available in free agency I see are, it's basically kicking the hornet's nest at this point. Alshon Jeffrey and Golden Tate. They don't even consider those two, right?
I would think not. I would think certainly not Golden Tate. I think people would think the other. From Alshon's perspective, I mean, he's the type of receiver they need. The big body guy, the X receiver. The old regime isn't here, so some of that bad blood goes away. Obviously, Carson Wentz isn't here. If anything, Alshon liked playing with Jalen Hurts. So some of the angst and acrimony is evaporated, although probably not from the fan base. But I don't know if he can run. So what's the point? I mean, Alshon was. I don't think he gets the credit during that Super Bowl season, playing through the shoulder injury. He was a really successful signing early for the Eagles, and obviously it went off the rails late. But yeah, I just don't think he's got much left. So to me, it has more to do about that.
JM, like a good basketball player, at times when you're covering the team at practice, you got to have your head on a swivel. Yeah, you're watching the main action, but guys are working out and doing drills around the facility. So you got to be able to see a bunch of things at once. When Jordan Mailata was dominating in drills yesterday, were you able to, with your head on a swivel, spot Howie Roseman and see what Howie Roseman was actually watching or doing? You kind of let us down the path of, it could get costly, but is Howie catching it?
Yeah, I've had
So,
this
did we lose?
discussion a lot with Howie. One of the reasons I think that Andre Dillard has a bigger chance than most people think is because of Howie Roseman, because
Yeah.
he's a first round pick, and I've explained that. You know, other people have pointed out, well, yeah, but Jordan Mailata is a 7th-round pick that they got from ground zero. That's on his record as well. So either way, he looks good. And I get that, but anybody who follows this league knows first-round pick, you got to hit on your first-round picks. Yeah, everybody will forget about the later round picks, good, bad, indifferent. But if you miss on your top picks as an NFL GM, you're going to get in trouble pretty quickly. Now, as far as individual goes, I went and digged out because I remember this quote about Jeff Stoutland. Jeff Stoutland hates individual drills, hates them because he knows everybody likes them. He knows everybody pays attention to them. He knows everybody overblows them. So he went on this long rant last year. And ironically, I think it was about Jordan Mailata. I have to double check on that because for years, Joe Osman would just boat race Jordan his first 3. I mean, he would just beat him like a drum in individual drills. And that's where Stout got it, frustrated. He's like, everything is against the offensive line in individual drills. There's no threat of a running play. There's no threat of a draw. There's no threat of a misdirection. You're just out there on an island. You're supposed to lose. I always say the context of these drills. I think I mentioned it on yesterday's show. On 7-on-7s, you're supposed to complete passes. You're supposed to. When it comes to individual drills, defensive ends versus offensive tackles, if you're not winning more than your share as a defensive end, you're doing bad. You're supposed to win that drill. So I've seen a lot of people overblow that Jordan has been better in individual drills than Andre Dillard, which is true. However, as I said, if individual drills meant that much, Jordan wouldn't even be here right now to be in that position because Stoutland thankfully understands it's not about that. It's about technique. It's about getting better. It's about all that kind of thing. So I'm not saying it's a positive. Look, if you do well, you do well. It's great. But I wouldn't put too much stock into that. The stock really starts today with the pads because the two positions, more than anything else, you have to have pads on to see is offensive line and running back. And so, if Jordan comes out there today and he's going to be with the first team, it's his day, so he's got that advantage. Then you start to say, okay, he's inching ahead.
Now, John, I know he hasn't been talked about much in camp, and maybe that's a good thing, but Javon Hardrave and Fletcher Cox, who's going to be the backup for them? Is it going to be Milton Williams, Hassan Ridgeway? And follow up on that, how has Javon Hardrave looked so far?
Yeah, I mean, the defensive line as a whole has looked great. I mean, they're so disruptive. They've been the main reason why the offense has played so poorly. I mean, they're just disruptive on almost every snap. And most of it, the splashy stuff has been the ends and Josh Swett and Derek Barnett but Fletcher Cox is Fletcher Cox and Javon Hardrave is getting a little bit more comfortable. I think the Eagles know they're going to have a really, really good defensive line. And, yeah, they love Milton Williams. It looks like their plan is to use him as more of a Brandon Graham type and that he would play both outside and inside. And Hassan Ridgeway's a player they like. They've liked for years, but he always gets hurt. When he's out there, he performs well. I think you're only concerned about Hassan Ridgeway is can he stay on the field? Bottom line. And inside, they don't have as much depth as outside. So that's fair. I think you need Hassan Ridgeway to make this team to be out there, to be healthy, because you do want some depth. I don't know if, any of the rookies are ready to step up. Although I will say T.Y. McGill has looked okay as well. So he's a guy who's been a stopgap in the past. they're not, as I said, on the edge, they're really deep. They're not quite as deep on the interior, but it's still a really good defensive line.
All right, JM, with the fact that the defense took its first loss yesterday, if you're going to grade one against the other each and every single day, and you mentioned yesterday it was 4-0 defense, good for the offense. They finally got one. Coach Gannon, a little bit more outspoken yesterday at camp. Was he attempting to motivate his defensive guys? I'm sure that no one even wonders or worries about the score that's kept by the head coach, but did you see anything as far as extra incentive out of the coach to motivate his defensive guys if they actually took their first loss?
Now, when I say they took their first loss, I'm probably grading on a curve. I want to give the offensive win. It wasn't like the defense was terrible. I think the defense has been, I've said it pretty consistently, a lot better than I expected to see. Especially on the back seven. And, I think it's all positive at this point for the defense. The question for me is, have they been good because the offense has been bad? It's a chicken and the egg type of thing. Or are they really good? And we're going to have to wait till we see them against the Patriots or the Jets or somebody else.
Now, John, Shane Steichen spoke yesterday, and I got a little giddy when he was asked, I forget who asked him about if they were going to use Jalen Hurts like Lamar Jackson. And he didn't deny that fact. He said, we're going to play to his strengths, yada, yada, yada. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is probably how they should use him anyway. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've never seen that comparison. Doug Peterson made that comparison. I think draft night. It was either Doug or Andy. I've always made the Cam Newton comparison. I think that's the better comparison. Cam Newton early in his career. Because Jalen is really strong. He's not, I don't think anybody's Lamar Jackson as far as athleticism. And I've heard that terminology, Jalen's like a fullback playing quarterback. Like he's, even though he's not Ben Roethlisberger's size, he's got that type of power to shake people off. A lot has been made. Everybody saw him at Lane Johnson's Bro Barn. He was a power lifter earlier in his life. He's just incredibly strong. Lamar faster than Tyreek Hill, maybe. I've never seen that comparison other than their quarterbacks who can run the football and extend plays and do things that way. I like the Cam, again, not the same size, but the same type of player. I think he could be the Cam Newton type. But, my concern with all those types of quarterbacks is obviously injury. And I get it. And that's why I think Lamar's a little bit different, because he's so athletic, nobody ever hits him. And Cam Newton might be the most physically impressive quarterback I've ever seen. I would say him or Dante Culpepper, and they both eventually got banged up and got it. It just there's a wear and tear to it.
Speaking of injured quarterbacks, JM, did anyone comment on Carson Wentz and his bad foot yesterday at Eagles camp? No, it's a new coaching staff. A whole bunch of these guys used to be Carson's teammate. Was anyone waxing poetic about the Eagles' former quarterback?
No, they have turned that page. And remember, that's the coaching staff is not going to go down that road at all. They don't have any, power over conditional draft picks. So that's sort of not in their lane. They don't even want to mention that name moving forward. And obviously they've gone in a completely different direction. But yeah, it's disappointing for the Eagles, and we'll see. It's rare that you see such a weird timetable for potential return, 5 to 12 weeks. It's like, can't you lock it down for me? If it's 5 weeks, he could get back on the field and they could get that pick. If it's 12 weeks, there's no shot, basically. And, that's why it's a conditional pick. I think too many people, I try to do it, and I certainly, we do the show so much, Jody. I'm sure I slip of the tongue. I try to always say potentially 3 first-round picks.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen. And here we are. I mean, you can't count that in the bank. And the NFL considers it a second-round pick when they talk about it, because it is a second-round pick until it isn't. So if you're looking to trade that pick, you can trade it, but it's going to be valued by the team receiving it as a second-round pick.
Following up on the Wentz thing, John, the Colts said this foot injury might have been since high school. Like, how do the Eagles go 5 years without knowing this?
Well, it's one of those things where it wasn't an issue. I mean, he didn't have any pain. So, I mean, I know people like to kill the Eagles medical staff. If you're a player and you're not complaining about your foot, well, they're not looking at your foot. I mean, they could do a body scan, I guess. I don't think somebody could study. I can't blame that. If you're not complaining about an injury, if you have no pain, they're not going to look at the area. And that's what the Colts said as well, I think. So, I mean, it obviously got dislodged and it became an issue. And remember, when the Eagles, if you want to kill the Eagles medical staff, remember, they traded him. The Colts had to look at his medicals as well, and they didn't pick it up because it wasn't an issue until it was an issue.
All right, and all 3 Bears quarterbacks spoke at camp yesterday, and
Nick was fired up.
I tweeted about this back on Sunday. I said the one potentially available backup quarterback in the NFL who will not be going in to lend the Colts a hand is Nick Foles. Because Frank Reich was here. He knows the after story. He dealt with it. Not as hands-on as the coaching staff that stuck around, but he knows how it all played out. There's no way he's opening up that door. Nick Foles tried to open up that door that he only wants to go play for people that he knows if he's going to be traded by the Bears, a.k.a. Frank Reich. There's no way the Colts go down that road. Is there, Johnny Mac?
I don't think so, but I don't think so. Similar to Alshon Jeffrey here, I don't think so, because I don't think Nick can play anymore, at least at a high level. I mean, I guess, and that's what Nick said. Frank Reich rebuilt the offense, and he did, by the way. But you also give John DeFilippo credit for that. He should have given him credit for that as well. Those were the 2 guys who completely rebuilt the offense around what Nick Foles could do well. So I understand his desire to get there. I do think, Nick Foles and Carson Wentz are friends. I mean, flat out. I mean, if people think that there's personal animosity between those 2, there is not. Carson had difficulty in the way others perceived Nick Foles, and the fact that they gave him credit for something that he had a large hand in. I think that was more of a personal thing from Carson's perspective. But yeah, I don't think it's a fit, because I mean, Nick has not played well since he left Philadelphia, and I don't see that change. I mean, I love Frank Reich like everybody else loves Frank Reich. Great person, great guy, good coach. Do people think he's got a magic wand? I mean, I don't know. It's a little bit too much pressure on Frank Reich to expect him to get every struggling quarterback. Oh, it'll be great under Frank Reich.
All right, last quickie for me, Johnny. You mentioned that Nick and Carson Wentz are actually pretty good friends. How would you describe the relationship between Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts?
I would say it was non-existent. I don't know if that's probably a little bit too harsh, but I don't know. The pandemic had a lot to do with that. I mean, there was no off season. The guys weren't together. There was just no bond. He was obviously happy that he was not here. I'm sure it would have been better if it was a typical environment and guys got to know each other and were sitting in the same room. But because of the unique circumstances, coupled with the fact that he wasn't happy that he got drafted at his position, yeah, I business-like would be the way, I guess, the best way to describe it.
Yeah, John, last one from me. You said about the Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts thing. When do you think that all kind of, the team kind of rallied toward Jalen Hurts, I guess? It seemed like it happened earlier than when he actually became the starting quarterback.
I think with the younger players it did. There were a lot of guys who defended Carson to the end, mostly veteran. I think it was a generational thing. And I think, and I've talked about a lot, I think Jalen is just more naturally reaching out to others. I mean, one thing Jalen Hurts is very cognizant of is that he understands if he's going to be the on-field leader of this team, he has to be involved with everybody, not only the other quarterbacks and the skill position guys and the offensive line, but the defense, and just communicating with them. And Carson was very focused on his job, laser focused, didn't go out of his way to sort of ingratiate himself to everyone. Just different styles, and I think Jalen's is more conducive to getting everyone on board, so to speak.
J-Mac, would you draw that generational line right at those who won the Super Bowl and those who came after the Super Bowl rings had been given out?
Probably, mostly, I would say, 95%, certainly. But I always say, and I say this all the time, you've heard me say it, Jody, the next 90 people I meet aren't going to like me. In fact, if I get to 46, I'm happy. If I get above 50%, I find it astonishing that people think all 90 people are going to like each other at all times. It's just common sense. It's like any workplace. There's personality differences, and it could be as simple as you don't like somebody's music or blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think people overblow that kind of stuff.
Well, see, you're right at 50% right now because Carr likes and I don't. So you're right there on that 50% line, John. Good job.
I thought I was 0 for 2. So
JM, we know you got to get to practice, brother. We will talk to you again tomorrow morning. Don't get hit on the sideline, okay? You got a mobile T-shirt on. You're going to be wearing shorts just in case a play comes your way.
My old buddy Pete Thompson, if you know him, he got hit on the sidelines, broke his leg. I got my head on the swivel. I know I'm getting old. I need some extra time. I pay attention.
Well, make sure you're standing next to Kratz. He's a big guy. He'll take the hit if that's the case. Johnny, good stuff. Always a pleasure, bud. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
All right. Thanks, guys.
John McMullen, usual co-host, Jeff Kerr doing a standout job filling in for him, except he likes McMullen, which we're all trying to figure out, but that's okay. All right, we'll come back. We'll continue to talk some Eagles. We got a good guest coming up for hour number 2. Keep it right here on Birds 365.
Today's show on the JAKIB Media channel. Listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.